Really? I was supposed to say nice things?
No.
What? I don't know what you're thinking. So, you know, there are just, I think David actually really beautifully captured a lot of our experience. And there are only a few things I want to say that sort of to emphasize a few of these things and a couple of other things. And, you know, one thing David pointed out that I think is really astounding is the influence of that first Ms. magazine.
Joey,
The influence of that first Ms. magazine with which really, you know, I can't underestimate how important that was in all of our lives. Because, you know, we grew up with this, what I only now really understand, completely skewed perspective on the world. Because David and I grew up in a context where we thought women did everything and were powerful and interesting and educated and self-motivated and creating of their own accord. And it's very interesting to me because in my work now, we have, you know, as with many places, people are dealing with issues of these subtle biases and unsaid and even unaware that both women and men have of bias of sexism. And every time that we talk about these things, I realize, you know, I don't have that very much. And the reason I don't have that is because I grew up with my mother doing these amazing things throughout my life. And you can and you don't have to look far to see the effect of it. Because you look at who David and I married, and you look at these women who, you know, it's again, you read this and you read in the press about men being intimidated by powerful women. But David and I think we're turned on by powerful women. Right? We seek them out and we marry them.
See what you did?
And, you know, I don't think it's it's unfair to say that, you know, David and I, we've done okay, but our wives are the impressive ones. And you know, I think we can credit Puppy for a lot of that. And it's really, you know, that's the example that we saw, and that is the precedent that we follow. And hopefully our children also grow up in that context, thinking that it's not about women and men being smarter or not smarter. It's about doing what you can do and pushing where you can go. So that's one thing I wanted to do, and the other is actually, I think, captured very much by some advice that Osi and I got from a friend who unfortunately is not here, from Debbie Rothman, when we got engaged. Debbie Rothman told us that one piece of advice for marriage. In your marriage, they said, divorce is not an option. Murder, maybe, but never and I think that also is you know, reflects our family life too. There are plenty of times that we've been ready to rip each other's throats out, but in the end, family comes first, and family continues. Am I doing okay? Is this too much of a toast and not roast for you?
Well, it's pretty mild, but okay.
All right.
You're ripping the throat part out.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Well, okay. So that's actually a good transition to the next piece, because the other thing that I think David didn't cover is it is something about the way we view the things we do in our life. And that's it's about standards and expectations. You know, and this comes down again. David made this beautiful point about teaching, but I think he didn't really get so much. You know, the spelling thing was reflected a little bit about how the form of that teaching. And And the form is of our teaching as we grew up writing, right? We were in the home of a reading teacher. And so Bubby had to read everything that we wrote in school. And anybody who's worked with her knows that, you know, the standards are not very low. And if you write something, usually you get back, this is trash. You have to do it again, completely different. And I was reminded this actually just a couple of weeks ago when Bubby read an essay written by my son for his English class. And he had spent the whole night on it. It was kind of a pressure situation because of course it was the last minute and he hadn't worked. And he was all excited to have Bubby help him work on it. She'd help him work on his college essays, which he did very well. And he called her up and she said, "This is garbage. You have to start all over again." And you know, as frustrating as that is, it inculcates a sense of what you need to expect of yourself and what you need to expect of what you do. And I think that expectations of standards and of the highest level of expectation has been huge.
I don't think I ever used the word garbage.
Pardon me for paraphrasing.
Drivel.
Yeah, right. Drivel. Yeah, and actually, if you talk about post-truth America, you know,
Wait until you get to the grandchildren.
you know, there were always the family stories. You guys heard the family stories. Most of the time, the family stories, when we heard them, had very little to do with what was actually going on, right? And Bubby would always, oh, a little hyperbole's okay, right? And there are certain people who seem to have taken that to an extreme in our current environment. But no, that was, I think, one of our levels of rebellion was to eliminate the hyperbole and start trying to stick to the level. But you know, the commitment to family, the commitment to the standards, and the commitment. Another thing, you know, David talked about being a humanist and an engineer, and I think one of the things that I remember conversations in high school is about the idea of being a Renaissance person, being not committed to doing one thing only and only one thing well, but to being a broad thinker and broadly exposed and broadly educated. And I think that was one of the most influential things for me about forming my life is to try to drink in everything that there is and think about everything that you can think about. You do some things very, very well, but enjoy the breadth of the world as much as there is. Even though I think Bubby has failed in that regard, because, you know, though everyone is aware of her talents as a writer and reader and thinker in literacy. You know, I remember, you know, when I was in high school, driving home from my math class at the university when I was all excited about multivariable calculus, and I talked to Bubby and she said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I failed math. Don't tell me any more about it." So hopefully we're beyond that. But I think these ideas of thinking broadly about the world, commitment to your family, standards that are exquisite, and thinking about women as people and as powerful people are some of the real foundation ideas of our lives and really critical. So thank you, Mother, Bubby, pain in the neck, all you are. And let's eat our dinner.